You feel you've lost a purpose. I do feel. You do lose your identity, you do feel at the first. And I think that's why I kind of thought, oh, I need to find something quick. I love to work and I've always worked all my life. And even when I was a young age, I started to work in the shop in my parents' takeaway. I knew what working hard was and I never really sat around and do nothing. The hours that we spent and we put the still on the photographs and it just 20 people saw it. It was quite disheartening. And I felt like that it was probably a 6-month period of time. I thought, oh, I'm going to give this up. I think it was 2 years ago. I thought, oh, this is just not worth doing anymore. I spent so much time in the kitchen, all this really beautiful decoration, but then, it's not being seen at all. I literally don't plan at all. I plan in my head. I am very messy. So I might just doodle on a scrap piece of paper. And then I say, okay, these are the 4 ideas that I'm going to do this week or 5, depending.
Now let's talk about that cake you're about to go make. Maybe even while listening to this podcast. I want to know what you're going to present it in. A basic box with extenders wrapped in cellophane? I really hope not. There really is a simpler way to go about this by using Alba tall cake boxes. They're super strong, luxurious. They assemble in a minute with no extenders, no cellophane, and no fuss. Best of all, you get peace of mind when you hand it to your customer for its journey home, knowing it will arrive safely. You've just spent hours making that cake, so why not present it in something that shows it off? Check us out at www.alba.shop. This week, we're in Luxembourg to speak with Winnie, fashion designer turned baker and content creator with some pretty amazing bakes. For example, her cake rolls, which are extremely unique. They are incredible. This creative type fell into baking, but was never really part of the plan. However, baking has gone from being just something fun to keep the brain busy to now baking all sorts of creative content. For someone with almost 700,000 followers, she only just created a website a few months ago. But that doesn't faze Winnie. She just goes with the flow and gives herself the space to be creative and let herself flourish. She's been in some form of design and creativity for most of her life. So this is now the natural continuation of what she loves, person. She's been in the fortunate position to have a husband continue to work to reduce the pressure on her to have to perform with her baking from the get-go. This has allowed her to develop her skills over time and see where it takes her. But as many of you know, the baking machine sucks you in bit by bit and you find yourself eventually turning this hobby into something full-time. How did Winnie handle that transition? Well, listen on to find out about her baking journey. Hi, Winnie. Listen, thanks for joining. This is very cool because we have a mutual friend. And Liz Chan, we have to call out to Liz, Rachel.
Yeah, a special mention for Liz.
Special mention for Liz. Hi, Liz, if you're out there listening, I'm sure you are. Because we wouldn't have actually known you unless Liz introduced you to Rachel over social media. When was this, 2018?
Yeah, it was definitely when I found your page on my personal cake page. And I was really early in my journey. And I think you were quite early-ish in your journey.
I just started too because I just moved over to Luxembourg. So it was a place where I just began to, I think, that's where my journey began too, I think.
Where had you moved from previous to?
From London.
You were in London.
Yeah, so London, yes, I know. It feels like a lot.
But you didn't grow up here. Your accent's a bit different.
Yes, I grew up in Northern Ireland. So yes, that's where I grew up. But I've been everywhere. I studied in London and then I worked in London. And then we relocated to Luxembourg with my husband's job. And we've been here for 5 years now. So yeah, time flies.
So you must have known Liz
like
from an
when
early...
we were kids. We started as pen pals. I remember when those days were, when you had to, there was no emails, when back with the pen and paper, so, going to the post box. So yeah, that's how we met. And then I think we were related in some sort of, when you're Chinese, you're related to everyone. Everyone's an auntie and uncle. But yes, so we've known each other for a long, long time. But no, sadly, I have not seen her for many years, Liz, now, since she's moved to Singapore. And, obviously, as she comes back home less and less. And I'm in Luxembourg, so I'm not in London. So it's hard to connect.
Cool.
But we still WhatsApp. And
Connections through cake are always just as special as well. Bringing us
complains
into
that I
the
don't
picture
send
here.
any cookies or some baked goods, and I was thinking, well, it's a little bit difficult, it's not like we're, London, Luxembourg might have been easier, but to Singapore is a little bit difficult. So
You can send them to us. It's fine. We'll quite happily take them.
You've got Rachel there too.
I don't know about you, Winnie, but I quite like it whenever people bring me baked goods because I get to sample their bacon, because mostly my bacon, I know what it's going to taste like. I know the anticipation what it will taste like, and I'm really not that interested in it.
It's true. The more you bake, the less you eat of it. And in fact, I actually give everything that I make away, to friends, family. And I actually do. Even my kids are not even interested. They're like just so sick of the amount of cake that is coming out of the kitchen, and especially when you're doing it for social media, it's not for an order. So it's just copious amounts of cookies and cakes, all kinds of baked goods, and they're also sick, and so is my husband, But there are some favorites they like that they will eat, but, at the end of the day, there's only so much cake you can consume.
Yeah.
Very true. I mean, you're the same, right, Rach? I mean, friends, neighbors, parents at school. There's no shortage of people who are willing to take a cake.
At least there's lots of happy people around us. That's why I always say share the fat.
Share the fat, exactly. Even the local care home here has been the recipient of several cakes.
Oh, that's lovely.
Which, for the staff is just a really nice thing, right, for them to get.
No, and I think it's also a really nice thing to do also when, when it's like Christmas or the end of year. It's always nice to bake them things as well. That's when we really go and make them lots of goodies and things like that. So that's always appreciated. And it's a nice thing to do rather than buying them something useless,
Exactly.
Yeah, everyone appreciates cake, I think, when they don't have to bake it themselves.
That's the best, yes. So let me ask you then. So going back to your history then. So growing up in Northern Ireland, but your previous career, shall we call it, is in fashion design.
Yes.
And you are obviously a very creative person as a result. You've been a creative person way before you got into baking. But did this happen at a very early age for you when you were growing up? I mean, was fashion something that was always of interest?
Yeah, I mean, fashion was I was a little bit of a black sheep in my family because I didn't really follow the sort of like Chinese academic route. So I pretty much knew straight away that I wanted to do something creative. And I was always in art class and I would always, that's where I want to be, and I actually didn't really care. I didn't really pay much attention to all the other subjects. I don't think I did very good at school, to be honest, but I like my other brothers and sisters, but I really loved art. I loved the creative side. And, I would spend all hours and, art nights, just working on any art projects or even extra. And I think I had to really plead with my mom and dad to let me go to art college, because it would mean that I would have had to follow the sort of the A-level route or, to do the traditional route and go to university. So I literally didn't do my A-levels and I went to tech to do art, like a BTech in fashion and textiles. And I did 2 years there. And it was the best thing ever that I did because it really kind of introduced me into the world of fashion, being able to do photography, life drawings, printing, I was doing all sorts of knitting, sewing, all sorts. And it really was the basis of where I am, where I kind of wanted to be. And then after that, I applied to the unis in London. I knew I wanted to be in London. I always wanted to move away from knowing that. Not that I didn't like knowing that, it was just because I knew that was the place to study for fashion and that I could really explore and be independent as well. That's kind of my journey in fashion.
Do you remember that conversation with your parents asking them, pleading with them to go to art college? Was it? I can imagine it'd be quite a difficult conversation to broach at the time.
They just assumed that there's no money or there's no career. In those days, that was what it was like. And they really, were not very happy about it, but they were also very supportive because in the end, my mom, she bought me a sewing machine. She got me onto courses and really tried to, she really helped me along, pushed what I wanted and my passion. So she really encouraged it in the end. At the beginning, she was really not happy, but she knew that was what I loved and I wouldn't have been happy at school like my brothers and sisters and doing the traditional route. So she let me do my own thing, which I am very pleased about and I'll never forget, very grateful.
You must really be the black sheep because I'm assuming then your brothers and sisters went off to totally different.
My other sister's a cook, one's an architect, one's a pharmacist, one's a physio.
Oh, okay.
All very varied things. Oh, accountant, cook. You know, Susie, she won the best home cook.
Yes, I do know this because I do think Liz sent me the link.
Yeah. So I do have a famous sister.
Yeah.
So she was an accountant, and then she's kind of in the world of cooking herself. So yes, so you must know her as well. So
it runs in the family then. To some degree, there is creativity throughout.
I think we all love food, and I think that's something that is in all of us, all my siblings. You know, we love to eat. We love trying lots of different cuisines. We love to cook. We love to cook together. When we can. Christmas is really fun. You know, when we do manage to get together, and we just cook up a storm, and it's really nice time because we're all separated. You know, a few of them are in Northern Ireland. My oldest sister is in Hong Kong. I'm here in Luxembourg, but the other three are still in Ireland. So it's nice when we get together.
I'm sure. But, you build this career for yourself. That's what you wanted to do, fashion. You go into it and you have a long-standing career in fashion, which then eventually comes to an end. But before we get to why it all finished, I mean, I'm just trying to understand, I don't really meet a lot of people in the fashion industry. So I'm just curious what it's like. Is it extremely high pressure like any other high-profile corporate role?
When I came out of college, I went to St. Martin's, and it was really an eye-opener from from Northern Ireland. I met lots of people, really international, people from all walks of life and studying, and actually at all ages, because a lot of people discover that they want to study fashion a lot later, not always, at a young age like myself. I went there when I was 18. So yeah, it was all a bit shock to the system, but I really enjoyed it as well because it was kind of a place, it was a big city, and you really just had to grow up instantly. And I dabbled at lots of different things. I worked with lots of magazine stylists, like high-end fashion designers. And then I gravitated back to the sort of high street. And then I spent my last sort of 11 years at Marks and Spencer's. And I was an accessories designer there. And I looked after the accessories range there for 11 years. I really enjoyed myself there because it was more of a stable environment, especially when you start a family. It's also great to have a stable job, and it was a completely different life because there, you had big responsibilities because you had big ranges to build and you had a lot of responsibility, and it was a team of people together. You worked together, you traveled together. It was really fun times. Shopped the world, did lots of research.
That's great.
No regrets, really. Went to lots of factories all over the world. And even I think I managed to visit Liz once in Singapore as well, en route on one of my trips. But yeah, I really had a really good time there. But, after 11 years, or actually 20 years in the fashion industry, just about, I just felt that, and especially my husband was asked to come here for a job. And I just thought, it was time. My kids were still young. And I thought it was maybe time to look at, maybe just having a career break. And getting older, it is harder being in the fashion industry, because you feel less and less, I wouldn't say desired, being older is a hard industry to be because, they really want young people, and I was about 35, I think. I felt old myself then there.
It's amazing. It's a bit like the sports industry. You get to that sort of mid-30s and
you kind of have a realization of there is also more to life than fashion, I must say as well. There's a little bit of growing up when you think, oh, actually, I love fashion. It's a little bit fickle. Now I actually don't look so much at fashion as much, as I used to, looking at a catwalk. I don't even shop as much as I used to, but it's just things change. I think you just grow and you mature, right? And with kids and family, your priorities are different.
I certainly felt the same way around 35 as well, 35, 36. I've done what I wanted to achieve, I guess, or what I saw a path for myself in the corporate world. And I started to think about, well, what else could I do? And it's very hard when you're in the thick of it, to know exactly what you can do. And if you have very young children as well, which...
Yeah, I think when family life and balance of, work life, well, I didn't immediately start baking. I came here and I think I really enjoyed the life. I really kind of realized, oh, wow, I have time to myself, When you don't actually have that 9-to-5 job, it's quite scary, actually. I think the first 6 months was quite difficult for me to kind of really, oh dear, I'm going to be at home and I don't really have a job, but I'm a mummy. Essentially, you're a mummy and you take on that as a massive role in itself, being a mum to your kids. And, before we had gazillion nannies and, au pairs, but now you do the job and it's actually really hard. So hats off to all the mummies out there. And so now I feel, oh, wow, it's a lot harder than being in the office. personally. And I think I find 6 months really hard to adjust to, that new lifestyle of mine, because, I would be traveling, every couple of times a month. And me and my husband, we would take turns to travel. And it was a lot of juggling around and a lot of commuting to work, as you know, in London. So time at home we were not really there that often, Obviously weekends were nice when we had time with the family and kids. But generally, yeah, it was very hectic in London, our lives. So I really had the luxury when I moved over. I then really appreciated. At first, I didn't, because it was very quiet and very slow. I was like, oh my gosh, I've got 9 hours. Or not 9 hours, like 9 hours what to do with myself, before the kids come home from school. So there is a lot of that. But I think that's where I decided that I would do something, after a year coming to Luxembourg. I then decided, okay, let's do something fun.
Did you struggle with that shift of identity as well?
Yeah, I feel like, not earning my own money. The usual as a woman, like you feel a little bit stressed that, oh my goodness, there's, I'm not earning no more. So, you feel a bit guilty for spending or, doing little things, extra. So I think it's a little bit different, and just being at home and if you feel you've lost a purpose, I do feel you do lose your identity, you do feel at the first. And I think that's why I kind of thought, oh, I need to find something quick. I love to work, and I've always worked all my life. And even when I was young age, I started to work in the shop in my parents' takeaway. So I always wanted, I knew what working hard was, and I never really sat around doing nothing really. And going out for coffees and teas and, having lots of that. That's quite nice at the beginning, but there's only so much of that all week you could do. So as much as that's nice, I still do that now, in between my baking, going out for lunch with friends and stuff. But that's the beauty of working for yourself, isn't it? To have that time, to be able to go out and have lunch with your friends and catch up, But when you have a 9-to-5 job, my goodness, you really are a slave to your job.
And fashion isn't 9 to 5 anyway, right? So
exactly. Well, when you're traveling or if you're, it's never a 9 to 5.
So when you make the decision to leave, was this something that the move really forced all that, or was this in your mind for a while? You were thinking, I probably need to stop doing this.
I think I was ready. I was really ready to find I was appreciating the break and the opportunity, because obviously, it's always nice to have that reason to leave, because if I didn't, I probably could be there another 10 years. I don't know.
Right.
It's one of those things that it became also like a job you're comfortable with. You just kind of continue on, like you just carry on, the comforts of, and you don't find the reason to move. So you just carry on, and it's just the next day, it's a Groundhog Day, isn't it? But yeah. I didn't want it to be like that. I wanted to leave on a high and just kind of, I'm going to move countries and find like a new sort of life, a new adventure, and it has been great. And my kids love it here. My husband, maybe not so. He's the only one working.
No, I guess that. But like, you have all this free time and you're at home and you're trying to figure out, okay, what do I do now? But did baking just happen because you had the time and you just thought, actually, I'm just going to make this and that?
I always baked anyway, when I was on maternity or all my kids' birthdays. Or I love sweet things. I mean, that's always one of my things. I would always gravitate to that. I look on the dessert menu before I would choose my main. I'm kind of one of those people.
Wow. Okay.
So I would look at the desserts first and see, what I'm going to order first before the savory. But yeah, I always bake cakes for my kids or people's friends' birthdays. And I kind of did that, as a hobby baker. Now I look back, they're a little pretty scary looking, but I was very pleased with them. I'm sure we all have those pictures that keep flashing up on Facebook, or Google memories or whatever. And they say, oh my goodness, did I make that? Yeah. So it's quite nice to see that, the vast improvement you've been able to make, after practicing a lot. But yeah, I knew that I wanted to do something creative, and I find that baking was easy because I could do it at home and the hours are flexible. And I noticed there was a gap in that here. There wasn't anyone really doing any cakes that were, the American British style cakes, all the layered cakes, all the drip cakes, all those buttercream cakes, because it was back then, it was still very much the fondant style covered cake, the very traditional classic cakes. So I knew that I noticed there was a gap in that market, and I just thought, why not? I thought, I've got a bit of time on my hands. Let's get some pocket money. And it kind of, that's just where it led to. And I just literally posted a few of my I think I did a baby shower for my brother and sister-in-law. And I did it was really nice. So I managed to get lots of nice photographs and whatever. And I just kind of posted some of that and some cakes that I'd made. And I just posted on Facebook and just did an advert and kind of said, I make cakes. And, I did that. And that's how it all began, really.
Oh, wow.
Because a lot of your early Instagram, I remember when I was following you from those early years, it was a lot more tall cakes. And
yeah,
I mean, you pushed yourself like with the boundaries of what you were going to do. I mean, there was.
I do remember the airplane cake as well. That's why I let you post
okay,
it.
those are really embarrassing.
The spinning airplane.
In fact, to this day, I still make cakes for that lady, I don't make many cakes anymore now, but it's weird. What's really nice, is I really made cakes from when those kids, they've been when they were just born till now they're 4 or 5 years old, and you just sort of, it's wonderful. So that airplane cake, I remember, yes, that wasn't my proudest moment, but I was actually able to do it because it's really damn hard to make those cakes, The ones that it looks quite simple, but with the wings and then the cut, I don't know how much cake I wasted on that cake.
Oh, you probably had to call into your brother, the architect, to say, hey, tell me, how do you...
Oh, no, I just thought that I could do it. I think I must have made so many trays of cake thinking. And then when at that time, I had no idea about the quantities and I was just baking up. I had so much waste and not knowing how to stack those shapes and carving it, I was watching a lot of YouTube, but it doesn't really help. Everyone thinks, oh, just watch YouTube, you can learn, but you just have no idea until you're actually physically trying to construct the cake itself, because then it's really hot, or even the rookie thing that I always remember, I was frosting cakes when they're super hot, or I think everyone's done it, it's not a new thing, but I think everyone has managed that one, and then you learn. So yeah, things like that, and you just think and the type of cake, the types of sponges, that are good for, you only learn until you make the first one, the second one, and the third one. And I think, that aeroplane cake, that makes me shiver.
It's still there, but quick, everyone, all the listeners, go to her very first Instagram post before she deletes it.
Yeah,
you can see.
I think what's really funny is that no one even scrolls all the way that far back. That's I'm thinking that might be no one's ever going to look at it's quite scary.
You don't have a significant number of posts, really. I mean, you've got less than 1,000. So
yes, oh yes,
it's not a lot, but that highly.
I've tried to be selective. I just didn't post all my disasters, which are hundreds and thousands of.
They're going to come out on a book one day, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, true, yeah. I am still not brave enough. I really applaud those bakers who post all the back in the days. I don't think I'm still too scared to. I'm going to give it a little bit more thought. Maybe I might do it one day, but it is quite scary, to look back to the disaster cakes, in the past.
This business, though, of yours is where you're basically, making a little bit of extra income. Was it starting to get more popular, or were you always just sort of controlling it to no, I'm not going to take loads of orders, I'm just going to do little bits?
My end goal was to learn from doing some small orders, because at the end of the day, I didn't have a lot of time because I have my kids, I was on my own. And the thing is, the kids get off at school, at 3. I need to then bring them to all their activities and, I didn't have a lot of time. Otherwise, it's up to all night. So no, I mean, I wouldn't call it a business. I kind of sort of did it to the point where I was able to sort of have a good family life with my kids, and which I didn't have in London. And I think I used this as a tool to document a lot of my work, and started Instagram, and I documented a lot of my work. It was kind of like a learning process to learn all the techniques, because what was really nice was a lot of people were very open to trying new things because they'd seen something that I'd made, on Instagram. So, oh, I would love that. Actually, back then it was Facebook first, not even Instagram. Let's put it this way. I was kind of more so I didn't even start on Instagram. It was very much here. It didn't catch on yet. Instagram is very much on Facebook. So, and there was lots of I don't know whether any expat community, I'm sure in Singapore would be the same. So lots of Luxembourg expat communities, all those little groups. So I would advertise in those. And yeah, and I had a lot of really nice regulars and lots of people, ordering from me there. And they were also very open-minded because obviously they know the kind of cakes that, I was trying to make back then, yes. So they were very keen because they couldn't order it from a bakery here.
And you never repeated your style. I mean, it was...
Yeah, that was the one thing what was really nice about doing it this way, because I only had so much time. So, I make a cake here and there, but then I also had I could do whatever I want, So I had a lot of creative freedom, which allowed me then to learn and push myself. One day it could be wafer paper, one day it could be buttercream flowers or some airplane cake or wedding cake. It really allowed me to explore and learn a lot of techniques.
I think you must have pushed yourself quite hard, because the standard that you were putting out, and even if I go back now and look at your cakes, they're pretty incredible even now, right? It's this gorgeous one with the sloth.
I look at the variety, the sheer variety, because obviously I kind of flit around from like really elegant cakes to then really cute cakes, because I can't quite decide. I kind of little magpie I just love cute and elegant, but it's kind of the two sides. I think also my kids drive me to the cute side of things, because I'm making cakes for their birthdays and things like that. So, and then I do love all the sort of very elegant florals and just textures and colors, which is my background and which I love. And it's really nice to have a page like Instagram to be able to share and inspire, which I just think, I've been very lucky.
Where did you get the inspiration for doing a cake roll? Because that seems to be something that you do that's really, sets yourself apart here.
Well, cake rolls, I didn't invent them, so I will not be. I'm sure you guys know from Singapore, the cake roll is it's a very much Asian baking, and I will not take credit for those, but I really enjoy eating them. And that's what I really love, to always kind of, look at my heritage as well, and just kind of thinking of things that interest, because I realized that all those beautiful cakes that I was making, first of all, I wasn't really eating them, and I enjoyed making them, but it wasn't that I would also want to, they're actually not quick to make, the cake rolls after. They are difficult enough, especially depending on how you decorate it. But I think it was in lockdown. I was really bored, and I was thinking, I want to bake something quick, something quick because my family was all home and and they don't really like all those layered cakes. So then I thought, okay, what would they like? My kids love strawberries and cream. So, it's the win. And I thought I could make loads of these. And lots of them were disasters at the beginning. And they're actually not that easy to make. They are once you've mastered.
The roll doesn't crack, by the way. I know it's every time you're nailing it.
But then that's because there's lots of different types of recipes, and I tried about a gazillion recipes, and the best ones are the Asian ones, with the egg whites in it, because there's all kinds, heating the eggs, the steam in the water, the bain-marie, that kind of method of spun. There's all kinds of ways to make cake rolls, but I found a way whilst during lockdown, and I think that's when I started, but they did a cake a collab on a cake roll. That kind of didn't really kick off. It kind of was on the surface of, really, really sort of kicking off, because now I think cake rolls are really trending, and it's everyone's doing them. Just like all the other things there's so many things I've kind of dabbled at and that they are trending. The cake rolls is something that I'm still working on and I'm still loving. And I think the thing is, the cake rolls, you can really explore so much different patterns on top the surface of it, So it's kind of a quick one to do color and texture as well.
Oh, beautiful. I've got them in my head that you got some of the lips on, and they're all just really cute and
so
colourful.
They can be either cute or very pretty. And I think that's what I liked. And I think I liked the fact that I can eat them. I think that was why I made them as well.
It's very inspiring. And then, it's not just that you make these cake rolls or you do your biscuits or, whatever it is you're creating, you show the process.
Yes.
Quickly, but you still go to the detail and show the process, which I think is really good. I didn't know if that was your intention from the start to think okay, I'm going to teach.
No, if you think about back, as you say, if you scroll back, my work was very elaborate and it took a very long time. And in fact, honestly, some of those floral cakes, those embroidery cakes, they would take, a lot of hours. And then you realize, and then I think Instagram changed its algorithms, or they didn't want photos. And I think it was a disaster for all of us who was using Instagram. And, the hours that we spent, and we put the still on the photographs, and it just 20 people saw it. It was quite disheartening. And I felt like that it was probably a 6-month period of time. I thought, oh, I'm going to give this up. I think it was 2 years ago. I thought, oh, this is just not worth doing anymore. I spent so much time in the kitchen, all this like really beautiful decoration, but it's like, it's not being seen at all. So why is this? And then, but luckily, the Instagram community, all the bakers there, you always chat and you always find out, oh, what should you do? This and that. And everyone said agreed, it has to be Reels. You need to switch on to Reels. You need to do videos. And I think that was when I started to do some videos. I still wasn't convinced. And I kind of dabbled and then realized, oh, this is not working. I either need to just give everything at it. And I also realized that TikTok was also coming up and strong. And the style of videos were different. People wanted to see things that they could make also and that they could bake themselves rather than someone decorating a cake that may or may possibly, could they do it? It's quite difficult. Those cakes, you need a steady hand and you need a lot of practice to do those. So even though they turn out beautifully, but it may be quite difficult for, a person starting out, to do a cake. So I find that those videos are quite great to watch. And I also find that there was not a lot of interest in those kind of videos. It got less and less, any cake videos. So then I thought, okay, do you know what? I can bake. I like trying all kinds of bakes. And then it's just like fashion, I really search and I look, I watch a lot of TikTok. I watch, I just always trolling the net, Pinterest, YouTube. I look and I research just like fashion. Instead of going shopping or going to different cities, I look on the net and, I really see what's happening out there in the baking world and see what was trending. And it looks like it is small bakes and things that people can make and think that, okay, I've got the eggs, I've got the puff pastry, I've got the simple ingredients that I don't have to make, a fancy Swiss meringue frosting for it to be able to make buttercream flowers. That's kind of how I kind of began to do all these kind of sort of quicker, sort of more short tutorial, fun, quick and easy, kind of unrelatable. They think, oh, actually, I think I can do this. And actually quite a lot of them, I think I've lots of people sending me photographs of them making the rose tart or shaped cupcakes or even some of the Swiss rolls, the cake rolls. It's nice to be able then to see people making and giving it a go.
So was that your objective? Obviously, when you moved to Luxembourg, you were set up a small cake business, but was your objective to grow your Instagram, or was just this something that happened over time and started to grow?
I think for me, I always thought that would be the place where I would document my photographs. And it was also a good tool for people to see what I've done before and say, oh, this cake looked nice, but could you do this way and that way? So it was a good reference point. I think it was only until it was an Easter cupcake. I don't know if you remember. It was like the bunny.
Didn't that go viral?
I think one of my things went viral, and that's when it really, because I think before that, in that January after Christmas, I was really going to just say, I'm going to just.
And what were you at then, Winnie? Because you've always had quite a large following.
I think I was about 60K, 70K.
Okay.
Back then. And then literally it's just overnight, and thanks to Food Network, they plugged that bunny cupcake ship.
I want to talk about cupcake boxes, especially if you need room for tall ones or floral cupcakes. There's never really been a cupcake box on the market that gave you the confidence to safely transport them without damaging them. Nor has there been anything that makes it easy to place or remove cupcakes without ruining those pretty decorations. Until now. The Alba cupcake box fixes all these issues. Plenty of height, strong, and a gorgeous cupcake box that opens fully into a built-in serving tray. No mess, no fuss, no cupcake teeth, and no damage. Even your customers will appreciate just how easy it is to open the box and serve right from the tray. Check them out at www.alba.shop. Just so everyone gets an idea who's listening, what happened here with the Food Network? You just got shared or reshare?
I mean, they shared, and then I think once they share, then everyone shares, right? Literally, it's a knock-on effect, and I was very lucky. And to be honest, isn't one of my proudest bakes.
It never is, though, is it?
I will be very honest. It was not one of my proudest bakes, but it was just something that worked. I think at that moment it was Easter. It was a festive bake and it was easy to make and people just wanted to make it. And I don't know how many messages I got just to know the recipe or how it's done, or they thought, it was really, I was really shocked, really. I was really like, wow, I couldn't believe it that everyone was so into this bunny cupcake. But I think once I found that, I just really find that confidence, because I was at a very low where I was thinking, oh, do I make some cakes? Then I realized, what? I need to stick to things that I think people are looking for, always new things and exciting things. And I think that's when I started to look at lots of different kinds of things that I would never have baked or that I would never videoed before. That's why I think researching a lot into different types of cuisines and that's what I'm doing at the moment.
Yeah, because there's no shortage of ideas. I mean, it's one thing I wanted to ask you is like, how do you keep coming up with these ideas and content for baking? Because it blows my mind.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. I think the fashion thing really is just literally like fashion is just like, I don't have mood boards, I just have lots of books, sketchbooks. I just like jot lots of ideas down and I Pinterest a lot and I just have loads of ideas. And then you see it happening I think what's really nice on Instagram, you can be very spontaneous. It's not like YouTube where you really need to kind of make a big long video. And that's what I really have enjoyed doing, the short videos, because I was saying, oh yeah, actually I'll make a shaped cookie, a cutout cookie, or, I'll make some cheesecake. It's all very quick and very spontaneous. And I think it's quite fast. It's kind of like fast fashion, but it's not. This is like, fast bakes that I'm trying to do. And I think they're never fast, but they're faster than making. I always relate it back to I'll not lie, not baking is never fast, but comparing to making, this very elaborate sort of wedding or buttercream floral cakes, you cannot compare it to this type of time it takes.
It's a little bit more accessible and probably you get a lot of people saving those recipes thinking, I'm going to give that a try.
Oh, yeah, that's what even, all my siblings and family, they say, oh yes, this is great. I can give it a go. And I think it worked. And I think I saw my numbers growing as you do. And you see a lot of the things trending. And I realized that was the path to follow. Because I was very stubborn and stuck on the whole sort of, oh, I'm a cake designer. I'm going to just keep on making the cakes, and I'm going to just keep on showing me piping. But this is the thing, it works for some, but I didn't have the following then. I think it works for some designers, cake designers, but for me, somehow people just lost interest in my side of work. I don't know. So I thought, do you know what? I will find what it is that people, I will look and I'll search. And hopefully, fingers crossed, I have found what people want to see. But it's always quite hard to think of, oh God, I've got 10 ideas, but I need another 20, I need another 30. It is hard. And you need to kind of stay on top of it as well. Because once you've made something kind of viral or trending, then everyone follows. But that's a part of, influencing others, which is also fun and exciting to see that other people are doing similar things to you.
Let me ask you though something. What point did you wake up and realize, oh, actually a cake maker anymore. I'm a content creator.
I think my husband needs to keep on reminding me that, because I don't really feel, I just feel like I am just this crazy mommy baking in the kitchen. I don't really consider, drive my kids back and forth. And then sometimes I do forget, I do this on the side and I'm creating content and people are watching. I forget all that, it's just a part of my life kind of thing, just part of the job, part of my daily routine, baking something in the kitchen. But it's really lovely because you get lots of messages and you increasingly, more for advice, or even just people, asking me how it's done or even how to grow their accounts, or it's really nice. And troubleshooting, helping people, Is
this just you managing it on your own, Winnie? Because there seems like...
I don't see a team behind you.
No, there is no team. It's basically called chaos. It's kind of my life, really. I work in a mess. That's my life. I think I juggle lots of things. And I also love tennis. I love tennis. I love yoga. So my time is split between, all these things. But that's a beauty from working from home, right? That I can sort of move my time around, that, I can do a bit of tennis in the morning, then I come back to bakes, then I go and collect the kids. That's what I love to do, to work from home. And that's the luxury for sure.
Yeah, I think it's quite cool because, you're coming up on like 700,000 followers, which is just not something that a lot of bakers hit. So in their social media journey. So you can't ignore the fact that with that brings all kinds of different ups and downs. And you alluded to one already, right? Like just the pressure of coming up with ideas, keeping yourself inspired, which you've been doing your whole life from fashion, right?
Yes. So I think it is not most difficult. I think it's just trying to balance the times. I think also thinking about the future, what I want to do with it is also quite a scary prospect as well. You know, people always ask me, oh, what do you do with all this following? And, you know, actually, I don't really know. You know, it's hard to know, but it's quite scary because you've reached that point and it's almost some sort of expectation as well. Where do I go from here as well? But I think what's really nice is that I haven't really had the pressure to like kind of, I'm doing it creatively, you know, I'm not getting
paid for it.
Yes. So I'm doing it, a lot of it, I'm doing it just organically and I'm feeling very inspired. So I think that sometimes it gives me more freedom, maybe. And I feel very lucky for that. And I'll thank my husband again for that. I've been able to have a more relaxed journey into this whole baking world and really take my time to learn all the skills and still learning. And how to make bakes properly. It's just so much to learn that you cannot even imagine. Sometimes I think, oh, wish I knew how to temper chocolate properly. You know, there's just so many things, you know, that it's just like, gosh, that I would love to do. But the fact that I think I don't have the stresses of like trying to have a bakery or, you know, I don't have that kind of thing to worry about or employees to pay. So I'm very much a one-man band, but then that comes with the stresses of then I have to do everything myself, you know. Nighttime I'll be thinking, you know, it's not that I can say, oh, can someone reply to my emails or, you know, or do my social media for me. I'm the person that does all that. I do the baking. I do all the, everything is me. When you see my account, there's no big team behind me.
But it's so interesting, isn't it, Haf? Because a lot of bakers that we talk to either go down a couple of avenues. They either then go and teach, they either open up their own cake school, which follows on from that, or they end up being social media influencers, like working with brands and monetizing it from there. Or they end up going into like wedding cakes or maybe eventually open their own shop and expanding. But it's almost like for you, Winnie, you are using this as a creative outlet for yourself, as a challenge as well. And
yes, that's a good way to put it.
So you're putting your mind into something without the pressures of anything else or expectations around it, because maybe at this period of your life, that's just not something that you want.
Yeah, I think that's what it's got to that point, and I think I am ready for the next challenge. You know, when you've been like doing that, I've done this for 4 years, and I think, you know, I think I'm ready now. My kids are a little bit older as well, so they're all becoming a little bit more independent, and I think this is the time for me to then like think about the next steps of how I could take, you know, what I can do with this baking and how I can grow it and see where the future lies, really.
I mean, obviously, very recently, you've now blog posts up on your website.
Yep.
With these recipes, probably because you get asked 500 times a day.
Exactly. So it's that helps me a little bit to kind of for the admin, not messaging. So I have a place to direct people now. Yeah, before, it was all very disorganized, you know, because I didn't have a website. I to be honest, I'm very unprofessional. You could put it that way. You know, I'm not a properly set up, because I wouldn't even call myself a business, because it really is one person behind this account and trying to juggle all these things. And I think it was only just until I thought, oh my gosh, I'm over 500,000. I really need to sort myself out here and actually have a good looking website, you know, at least. And then I'll see what happens from there. And I think this is where I'm starting to approach and get people to, you know, getting more paid partnerships and things like that. Before I didn't really have, so I had some really amazing people like NY Cakes, and, you know, they're really great. They always give you baking supplies. I don't know if you work with them, Rachel, as well, but they're really great to the baking community. So, you know, people like that, you know, really supporting the community, you know, and Happy Sprinkles, you know, they all really give you lots of products for you to try and test. So I've been very lucky. I've never really had to pay for any sort of equipment. So that's always been very nice. Now it's quite nice to be able to do projects, I think, you know, and really work with brands and make content for those specifically, you know, rather than it being just whatever I like, even though that would be nice.
But maybe, like you said, it's looking for that next challenge where you've been a researcher for so long and you've been looking for inspiration. Maybe the next challenge is to have a brand working with you they put forward their vision and you can start to...
Yeah, that sounds exciting, you know, because I think for so long, I've been dictating everything that I wanted to do, the kind of my vision. But it's also quite nice to them to be able to work with another brand and be able to sort of do what I like, but with their products or, and have to think about someone else and not just myself.
And you've always stayed away from the social media. So I look at your videos, you don't put your voice over it. You rarely put yourself in front of the camera. Has that been purposeful as well?
I don't know. I think it just started like that. And I thought, oh gosh, I don't know whether, I don't know. I think it's just easier to edit, no? If it's just your hands, I think it's just easier to edit. And I think generally, I think that's why I didn't really, I guess I don't feel most comfortable talking in front of a camera, or like, it's not I wouldn't say it's my strength. So I think I would just concentrate on the bake or the thing that I'm working on, rather than, sitting there talking in front of the camera and explaining. I don't think I would do a good job of it.
You're doing a great job right now, though. It's fine.
I think I'm talking too much. I may be a bit too fast as well, I am sure.
But I think all this is, like you're saying, you explore what works. I think the biggest change that you probably did in your social media strategy, even though you may just admit that you didn't have one, was that you stopped doing the cakes and you started to do other things. And then doing things like adding a voiceover or changing your technique is obviously another one of those big changes, and you just don't know how your audience is going to react. And so I don't blame you for being hesitant about that. You've obviously got style and you've got an eye for content production that probably stems back to your fashion days. You're leveraging that every way you can because you're very consistent in how you put stuff together, and you still capture the essence of what it is you're doing in a 20-second video. So you're very good at that. It's just a question of now, do I introduce other aspects, or am I going to risk people missing out on what it is I was really trying to get across? I see your point. I think it's a bit of a struggle for a lot of people.
I think you feel very torn. I think that's why, speaking to a lot of bakers, it's very hard because, you really spend a lot of time sort of really learning those techniques. Cakes are very hard to make. And my goodness, I do feel a little bit guilty sometimes because I see, as you said, I scroll back and I say, oh my goodness, look at all those really beautiful cakes I had made before, like 2 years ago. And now, like, I just feel like it's a shame that I don't know. I don't think people are not interested. I just think people are just fickle, right? It's just like fashion, it just moves on, They want to see something quick, fast, they can do it. And when they look at some sort of like really complicated thing, they're kind of put off straight away, People just don't have time anymore, it feels like, the luxury of time.
Yeah, I think for you and your audience, I think you've read them quite well because you are, so many of your reels go into the millions of views quite regularly.
I think I also noticed that people were just, I watch my kids, they're watching shorts, not TikTok yet because they're not old enough. Everyone's doing, TikTok is all just short, quick things. And I don't know, it's just our lifestyles. I don't know, is it, or it must be. And I think that's the trend, and that it's kind of really made me look at how to do videos differently. And it also encourages me that it's definitely the right path. I think if you want to grow your account, I think that's a path to take. Because I was definitely really stubborn, it took me a long while to get used to making reels. It's difficult. It's not easy to make. And it's not 20 seconds, 15 seconds is the magic number, Yeah,
in 15 seconds, but it's probably like an hour's worth of work just to edit. 15
seconds to you edit down to 15 seconds is the magic number, right? To get all that info in and make it still interesting. It's actually quite difficult.
Did you then find going to writing a blog post being a bit of like okay, this is a bit better pace because now I can just write the whole...
I can put a video in there. I can put 10 photos if I want. I can do whatever I want. It's kind of more of I should have started a website a blog page ages ago, but it's one of those things, I probably would have found a really nice place to document all my bakes and everything. But now I just do it the other way around.
That's okay though. It's less admin for you because all these people can just go straight to your website to grab that information. But you must get loads of people though who still ask you to make cakes or bakes for them.
I still do, but as I say, it's just less and less because I use my time to research. I'm just busy sort of working on lots of projects for brands and things like that. So I am starting to get busier doing this new path that I would like to grow. It's kind of going the right direction because obviously I started out, making cakes, custom cakes to order, but I find that it's also a lot of hours. No one appreciates it also either in the end. I'm sure you know, Rachel. And no offense, for what you charge and for what you get. I mean, people till this day, the conversation about cost and the actual man hours, I mean, really, I just don't think many people appreciate it. And it's really hard work. It's not glamorous at all to actually, the outcome of such a beautiful cake. Sometimes you think, gosh, why am I still awake at 3 a.m? Is it worth it? So sometimes I don't miss that. But when I have, really good customers that I've worked for many years, and if they have a birthday cake, then I do it, I'm kind of on a different path now, a different journey.
Can I talk to you quickly about discipline, Winnie? Because I think when you don't have those cake orders coming in, which usually is like planning your week, how am I going to do this? And you work for your own and there's no pressure behind from a payable or a band, working with a brand, etc. How do you keep yourself quite disciplined? Because to do the amount of content that you're producing, do you work in time blocks? Do you plan out your week?
You would not believe it. I literally don't plan at all. I plan in my head. I am very messy. So I might just doodle on a scrap piece of paper. And then I say, okay, these are the 4 ideas that I'm going to do this week or 5, depending. And I think when I find it's most stressful is when I'm on holiday, or because that means I would need to double or triple the amount of work, unless I have a kitchen there to work at wherever I am traveling to. But that is not always the case, right? When you're in Greece, there's not exactly a kitchen where you can
just walk in.
Yeah, walk into and say, okay, let me just use your kitchen so that I can make my 15-second video. No, that's never going to. So I think you're really up against it because, as you know, if you're on Instagram, you need to keep posting, you need to keep engaging. So it's not like your following or your engagement is going to continue on a high because you're not posting anything. You need to keep on posting and engaging. So you need to have the content ready. So I think that's when the time when I find really most stressful and very disorganized is when I have to suddenly produce let's say 8 reels so that I have to cover the week following. Creative people are messy people, I think.
Do you just wing it?
I would say I am, but I think that's what's spontaneous about it. I have a vision of few things and then I see it's all in my head. And I kind of see it and then I say, oh, that's how it's going to work. I never really sit there and have a big schedule. I always start with a notebook or a diary and then it's empty at the end of the year because I don't write in it, or I'm the typical with 5,000 in my inbox and I don't delete it. You would hate working with me.
Oh, not me. I'm definitely...
Rachel's the same as you.
I survived in the corporate world, but it just works, I just read what's important and I kind of skim over what needs to be done and everything gets done.
I do think that's part of a creative brain. We're laughing and agreeing with you here, Winnie, because we're only having this conversation over dinner with friends a couple of weeks ago where we were talking about I can have thousands of messages in my inbox. I know what's going on. I know where everything's up to. It's just I've got thousands, whereas Half is the complete opposite. He's down to email 0.
Yeah, but a couple of times a week.
That's just boring. That is dull.
It makes me laugh because my friend said to me, he's like, you're probably the only user who actually uses it the way it was designed to be used. That's
it's fun. I don't even know all the functions there. I just think, sometimes I receive and then that's fine. And then when my inbox is full, then I might delete a few hundred, then just so that I can start to receive mail again. But it's just I find it boring, all the admin stuff.
I think also when it comes to other stuff, when you're running a cake business, managing all that customer communication, in Instagram, it's just not easy to manage hundreds of conversations, right? And find stuff.
I think because it's not very, you can only imagine how messy, because there's no way to even organize it. It just keeps on. That's why I said, if someone messages me there, then it goes hundreds. It's over.
It's gone.
It's gone. I said, I'll never be able to find this. So unless, you sit there and scroll, over such a long period of time and the amount of messages you get. So it's more difficult on Instagram. So I am pleased that now I have an email address and
just somewhere where it's easier to manage exactly and communicate. But I can see where things have taken place for you now, but your brand is maturing, you are growing, things are continuing, more brands will want to come and work with you as you put out more content and your content has more reach. So in your quote unquote messy structure in mind, do you even need to worry about where this is all going? Or do you kind of have it in your head or does your husband ask you, What are you going to do in like a year from now? I'm just curious because do you plan much for it or not?
I think he would like to retire. I think that's what he'd like, Maybe you could just make it big on Instagram or like go viral. And I think, yeah, I don't think so. I don't think it's that easy. I would like to have a plan, but then also I don't want one that's set in stone. That's for me. I'm kind of very much like, oh, will I do this or will I do? Because that's how the account has grown, just so organically and creatively. And I do worry sometimes when, you set yourself and pigeonhole yourself into certain things, I do. So that's why I want to be very selective. Does that make sense? Yeah. I want to be sure in what I want to do. And because I think I want to represent the brands properly, the ones that I want to also, and the ones that they want to as well. So it's more mutual and slowly grow that side of things and make it work.
There's a loose plan, really. It's
a
not
very loose plan.
Yeah.
I don't want to set. Yeah.
No, I think it's really cool. I think it's really interesting for a lot of listeners to hear about your journey and how it's just sort of gone in the direction it's gone without much of you really putting the bits in place to make it that way. Like, it's not like you made this target for yourself to say, I'm going to have 500,000 followers by this point. Or
I must say, I was never a target. Obviously, we're all driven by numbers. Obviously, I wanted to achieve, but I never even imagined that my account would get this big. But it's been a lot of work, but it's also a challenge, right? You see that number ticking, and it's badly, you're addicted kind of sadly, to that number. And then when it goes down, I think it's not really good for your mental health,
No, sure. You just spent 7 hours on a reel and it's gotten 50,000 views. And you think, well, this is just crazy. I don't understand it. I can really.
It can be a high or low, I mean, I just had like some pancake one that just flopped, I think. But then I just think, what? The bear pancake.
I love that one.
Yeah, I love that one. But, sometimes you just, not everything works, right? So I might have just done the wrong hashtag or I posted the wrong time or, what it's like. It's just like, God, what did I do wrong now? So you'll get punished for it now. But now I'm just a bit more relaxed. Before I'd be like, oh my God, sitting there watching, every few seconds, oh, what's it on now? But now I'm more relaxed and I think, do you know what? Not every post is going to go over 1 million or, even over 100K or whatever, just be grateful that you have followers and that people are looking at your things, I think is more important. But yeah, you do get addicted. And I think that's what also drives you. And I think sadly, that's what social media is. It's like the way we wake up, watch a few videos before we even first start brushing our teeth, I do anyway. You pick up your phone, and you kind of have a wee look first. You don't even do anything else, It's kind of just the way of life, a lifestyle now, it's watch a few videos.
I'm sure you're inspiring your kids as well. I'm sure that your feed
they do.
comes up.
What am I doing? Yeah, no, they do think it's all a bit crazy.
It is. It's really nice to see just how things have changed for you and how it's all come about. And it's all just from a very original sense of creativity and your content. It's all just beautiful to watch. So keep doing what you do, Winnie, because it's fantastic. We love it.
I really enjoy it as well. So I think that's what also is, you have to enjoy what you do. And I think that I always say to my kids, enjoy it. If you don't enjoy it, then don't do it. I think that's, the most important thing in life.
Yeah.
Enjoy everything you do. Otherwise it shows, right?
I honestly think your page comes across very authentic. It's very a genuine exploration of trying out different types of recipes.
No, and I want people to be happy when they look at it or feel good about it and have that kind of, leave page and say, oh, I want to come back and see a bit more, next time, wonder what she will do. I just want it to be colourful, happy place.
It's a great place. It's a great place. Hey, listen, thanks, Winnie, for that. I just want to say, one thing that we like to do at the end of each of our conversations is we have a little quick fire round of questions.
Oh, my.
So it's the first thing that comes to mind. You don't have to explain it, or you can if you want. It's totally up to you. But I'm going to go first. So what I'd like to know is, what's your preference? Is it American buttercream or Swiss meringue buttercream?
None of those.
Tell us, what is your preference?
Oh, I actually just like cream.
With the strawberries?
Yes.
Whipped cream.
Actually, I'm very partial to that myself.
Nothing beats a pavlova or even that's why I like cake rolls. Just cream and strawberries, or I just have a bowl of cream and strawberries. I mean, you can't really go wrong with that.
No, I'm so down for that. Rach makes the most amazing pavlova, by the way.
There we are, you see, isn't it?
Comes out about twice a year.
Yeah. Oh, it's amazing, though. It's just so good. And it's different every time, I think she makes it, just slightly, but it's just so good.
So one aspect of your baking that you won't compromise on?
I won't compromise on slapdash.
It's always beautiful, yours.
I can see that actually too. When you draw out your pattern on the paper, right? You're very consistent. Like it looks like you take hours to do all that.
Yeah, I might have drawn it like 10 times already. And then I redraw it and I redraw it. And then until it's like, actually it looks camera ready, then no one knows, right? I'm just really good at drawing. Not.
Practice, right? Okay, so how about a baking book from your bookshelf you'd like to recommend?
Ooh. Do you know what? It's actually in front of me. It's a really old one.
Tea with...
B.
Is that 1970s? It's got gatto.
No, I think
1980s?
when I was in London, she was like a baker and she had like a bakery in Bloomsbury. And then she had a book and we always used to go there to eat cakes. And this was even before I just liked eating sweet things. And one of those like really in sort of cool bakeries that, you have to go to, that this was like, I think like 10 years ago or something. But yeah, I love all the recipes in it.
Who would you want to make your next birthday cake?
Do you know what? Catherine the Sabbath. Yeah, I mean, they're really cool. And I love her books. Yeah, she's very inspiring.
Yeah, that's a good one.
She's really cool.
But you really went far away for that.
No, because I was sitting there thinking, is there anyone in Luxembourg that came in? I was thinking, I really thought about it. I was thinking, that's not going to happen.
Was she a key inspiration to you when you were starting out?
Yes, as soon as she had her pop-out book, I ordered it straight away. And I think I paid like stupid amounts for it because it was all the way from Australia and I had to pay taxes on it and everything. But it was really worth it. It was when I had just started my journey and I just got this amazing, but I mean, she was one of the first people I followed and it was just really like, wow, like really just directional, really trend setting. Just things that just blew your mind. A lot of the things that she made, as cakes. I was like, wow. Yeah, so she was definitely one of the... And then another one was Lindsay at Cocoa Cakeland.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
I've got her book, actually.
She's lovely. And she's also helped me a lot on this journey as well. Even just chatting to me, telling me about starting a website. She was one of the person who told me, you got to do a website, what are you doing? And she sent me articles to read. So she's been really nice and, really supportive and encouraging. And she was one of another first books that it was on my, my shelves. I looked and I practiced all the techniques and recipes, from. So yeah, so she's another lady who I'd love to thank.
That's brilliant. That's so good. Thanks, Winnie, for all that. We really appreciate you coming on. Oh. This might be your first podcast. I don't know.
Yes, it is. Yes.
Oh, amazing. That's brilliant.
I survived it. It's always good.
You more than survived it. Listen, thank you so much for that. That was just really nice. I mean, it was just lovely to finally get to meet you and talk to you. So we really appreciate it. Thank you. And that's episode 25 of My Baking Journey. Everything you want to know about Winnie can be found in the show notes. So we will see you next week for the last episode of the season. Thanks so much for being a part of our journey with this podcast. Don't forget to hit that subscribe or follow button in your favorite podcast app so you get notified when this podcast comes out. And finally, just want to remind you, this podcast is brought to you by Alba, packaging for bakers designed by a baker. Find out more at www.alba.shop. See you next time.